emocionada. Hoy en la mañana decidí hacer esta transmisión porque volví a ver un entrenamiento que nos regala la compañía. Y bueno, primero que nada, pues buenos días, tardes, noches, no sé a qué hora lo vayan a ver, pero hoy quiero pedirles algo diferente. Que escuchen con atención, con esa mente y ese corazón que busca claridad, propósito y dirección real dentro de la industria que tanto amamos, que es el network marketing. Ustedes me han escuchado muchas veces hablar de visión, de crecimiento, de liderazgo, pero hoy quiero que escuchen a alguien más, porque lo que van a oír no viene de teorías, sino de años de resultado, experiencia y reputación impecable. Esta mujer que van a conocer hoy ha construido una carrera extraordinaria. A lo mejor ya la conocían desde antes. Ha pasado por todo tipo de retos y aún así decidió dar un paso más allá. Decidió apostar por Neora como su última carrera. Y créanme, cuando alguien con ese nivel de trayectoria y solidez toma la decisión así, vale la pena detenerse y escuchar por qué. Hoy no vengo a convencerte de nada. Nunca lo he hecho. Vengo a abrirte la puerta a una conversación que puede cambiar la forma en que ves tu futuro en esta industria. Así que quédate, toma nota, escucha cada palabra de lo que lo que van a mostrarte hoy Amber Olson y AJ Yates, porque es más que un testimonio, es una confirmación de que el network marketing sigue evolucionando y nosotros estamos justo en el epicentro de esta evolución. Bienvenidos a Live. Prepárense porque estoy segura que lo que van a escuchar hoy de verdad los va a hacer pensar diferente. Y pues les comparto.
Joined Neura, and she built to AMD and in little less than a month, because I think she started about 7 days into the month, but she has a lot of industry experience, right? I always say, it's never an overnight, there's no such thing as an overnight success, right? So her coming to Neura and building that was the result of over a decade of experience in this industry, is the result of building to the top of two different companies. It was a result of a lot of development that she has done in her own professional skill sets and personal development, right? So there's no such thing as overnight success. I think it's always important to remember that, because when we compare ourselves and our journey to someone else, right, just know that moment for them is a result of a lot of work that they've put in. But I think her story is so impactful. So what I want you to really think about as she's sharing her story, right, is just, it should give you such a level of pride and confidence in your business, and a sense of urgency and a sense of just almost like obligation to share what we have here, because I think it's going to remind you that there's truly so many people looking for exactly what Neura has, the exact business, the exact community, the exact support that Neura has. And so I would like to welcome to our ED call and her first leadership call, Miss AJ Yates. Welcome, AJ.
Hi, thank you so much. Let me make sure I'm all good to go here. Yes, 3 weeks in, now four, and I'm on my first call and speaking on it. And I'm an introvert, guys. It has taken a long time for me to step out and want to do, public speaking type stuff. But if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I'm excited to share with you guys today.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I'd love for you to just share a little bit of your background and your experience in the industry, and kind of how it kind of led to this point where you had made the decision that you needed to look for a forever home, and so you started on this journey, which we'll kind of get to, but kind of give us a short background of your story.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've been in it for 10 years in the industry. I actually started accidentally as a customer, and I feel like it's a full circle moment for a few things. One was that their whole thing was get three customers and your products are free. So that's what I did, and I got a check, and here I am. Right. And so that's, speaks to the power of that. So I remember when I first saw that program, I was like, yes. And so I started, whenever I've been through different seasons of life building this business. I started before kids and I was working full time. My family has a business of over 40 years, and I was the director of marketing and public relations. And so I had, a salary job. I was driving to and from work every day, but I also grew up in that business and I understood the golden handcuffs of a brick and mortar, and having to be there in retail for every holiday. You're not on the lake, you are in the store. And I just wanted something different from that. So then as I started, making an income outside of that, I built both alongside, right? So I was working full time while building, and I didn't leave until I was making multiple six figures. So if I can do it, you can do it. So then I had this shift. I had a conversation with my mom, like, I'm not going to be working with you anymore, but I'll always, be here. I did their payroll for like a year after that because I felt bad. I go in for 1 day a week. But I just love this industry and the freedom and the flexibility that it offers. There's no better industry out there. And so, like Amber said, I've built to the top of two companies, and I would not consider myself a company hopper. This is my last run club myself. I always say that like I want to be the older lady that's being helped across the stage in a walker. Like that's what I envision myself in this industry. But unfortunately, the vehicles that I've had have failed me. And I think that happens so much in this industry, and it's unfortunate because people pour everything. I know I have poured everything into it. And so the first one was a product issue, and the second one was a corporate issue. And so whenever I came into, this space of trying to figure out what my next steps were, I was able to come in with a whole different view of what I was looking for. It wasn't, hype or where all the cool kids are or anything like that. It was a legacy business that I knew that I could build for my family, and will it one day. I wanted stability. I have lots of reasons, but that's kind of my journey to where I am today. So now I have two little ones. I have a 2 and 4-year-old, and my husband's in real estate, so we all are at home all the time. So it's a little chaotic around here, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm excited to share with you today my reasons why.
Yeah. So, first of all, I will just say for those of you that don't know, AJ is so well respected across the industry. When she made the decision to come at Neura, I told her I got so many text messages from people that are in the industry saying, like, congratulations. Like, she is one of the most respected leaders in the industry because she's been known to always do the right things and very much in alignment with the culture and the value set that we have here in Neura. So it's super exciting, and just kind of validation of, for some of you on this, and I mentioned this to AJ, you got the lottery of, you picked right the first time, so you didn't have you didn't have to keep looking. So that is always awesome. But AJ, I have never met somebody who had better research skills than AJ. And she was looking at, when you have this level of industry experience, what you're looking for. And like she mentioned, she was looking to make one final build. And so it was important to check all the boxes. And she vetted so many different things. I think she secret shopped and had an order. She did a secret call to customer service to see the level of customer service. She reached out to and asked questions to people throughout the industry that had corporate roles and asked about Neura. Like, she did her due diligence, as like she mentioned, wasn't just a casual decision. So AJ, I would love for you to kind of share, when you were thinking about, okay, what were some of the things that were top of your list that you were looking for in your last run club?
Yeah, for sure. I saw people saying in the comments I could be a detective. And, if there wasn't the trauma and they made more money, I probably would have gone into the FBI because I'm really good at investigating. But I did that. I wanted to see the user experience as a customer. So I went through that. Even just little tiny things like the communication that comes after, the product education that comes after, all of that step, like that isn't like not every company has all of that. And so I wanted to experience that, even little tiny things. This is how my brain works, like how many clicks it takes from the front screen to check out, things like that are important. And I called customer service to make sure you got a real life human, because that is also very common that it's not. And our girls are already, raving about the customer service. And then I also called corporate contacts that I had to talk to their corporate contacts, because the things that happen behind the scenes, the way that corporate, you guys, but how the, behind the scenes, how employees are treated, that then funnels into the field. And that is a huge part of my decision, is just the level of respect and integrity that the corporate staff treats other people is a huge one. So I ran all of those tests. I was looking, number one was stability. I looked at so many brands out there. The last company I was with was a startup. And I was direct to corporate. I actually worked with corporate for a while. So can you imagine having thousands and thousands and thousands of partners, but then also being hybrid with corporate and doing all of their training resources, all of that stuff? I did both for a long time. And so I've done the startup. We've ran out of every product. I've done that. That was not what I was looking for. I wanted stability. And I'll tell you guys, like the lawsuit was one of the top three, four determining factors for me. The fact that you guys went to bat for it, the fact that the leaders that are still here, went through the fire, that says a lot about who you are and how much you believe in this. And the fact that you came out the other side, that just speaks to the opportunity that is here. This industry has shifted a lot, as you all have seen. Companies are closing overnight or changing their models, or just doing things. Yeah, going. People are hitting the top of the comp plan, changing it, and then everybody's losing 50% of their income. Or it's like something I experienced. You get to a certain level, and then they make you sign a bunch of contracts and crazy things, and so there's a lot of instability out there. And I felt like I was pouring my everything into this, and I didn't want to build a house of cards. I wanted to build on rock. I wanted to build on a solid foundation, and that was what I was looking for. Also the product offerings. So skincare, wellness were top of my list. I did come from a brand that had makeup, that had a lot of the cosmetic things, and the money is in skincare and wellness. The numbers do not lie. That is where, from a business perspective, that's where that residual income can come into play. But then the innovation behind it, right? So you're looking at all the companies out there. What are the products within that space that they are then coming out with? Are they a Me Too product, or is there something different about it that can disrupt the market? So whenever I had started following 𝗡𝗲, we were speaking on a event together, and so I started following her. Then I saw Sam was in Charlotte, and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I saw a bunch of Carolina girls on here. But whenever I started seeing the filler come out, I was like, that is the innovation of a product that the industry needs, not just another serum, not just another product, right? And so the innovation of that side was on my list too. And being able to, and one of the first conversations I had with Amber, I remember whenever I launched with a brand and I actually used it in my marketing, that they're always coming out with so many products. There's always a launch, there's always hype. And then I learned really quickly that's actually detrimental to business, because no one latches onto a story, no one latches onto a flagship product, and then everybody's just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. It's insanity. So I had a conversation with Amber. I was like, what does the product development look like here? Because that side is super important. I wanted something that was easy, or simple. I don't like saying this business is not easy. It is simple. I wanted something that was simple for the average person to win at. So then whenever I saw the scan and go prospect and just the 3-year free program, things like that, that's whenever someone who has no experience in this industry can be successful. And the key to this business is a lot of people doing those smaller activities and being able to help people do that. And just like Amber was talking about with the stores and making them be successful, that was huge. Even in the comp plan. So I'm a comp plan person. I've looked at all of them out there. Whenever some might just look at the comp plan of like, oh, this is how I make money. I look at it like, what are the drivers that encourage activity in business. And the Neura comp plan does that. It's literally, I tell people, come and follow the check marks, follow everything, and you're going to build a successful business. And so it's driving people. It's actually training and teaching people. The comp plan is training and teaching people, how to grow a legacy business. And then I wanted something that was in multiple countries, but like actually in multiple countries. So a lot of brands out there, they say that they're in others, but they ship from the United States. So then you're dealing with the time that it takes for the products to get there, the duties, all of that. People aren't paid in that currency, or the website's not in that currency. So it looks good from the outside that there's this long list of countries, but they're not really in it. So that's something that I was looking for. And then honestly, good people. Like I said, FBI agent over here. I think I've looked at like every single person in the company's stories and highlights on social media and everything. I just wanted like a different culture. I didn't want that, competitive celebrity crazy culture that's out there these days. I wanted something that, felt like a home. And so that was my list. I had lots of them. I look at things a little differently than everybody else, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I
that's
have
why
my
it's
list.
so great for them to hear that perspective, because it's all they know. Like, even for some
Right.
of our top leaders, it's the only company they've ever been, so it's all they know. So I think having that perspective, because when we're marketing the business side, right, you're always wanting to market what is the competitive advantage that Neura has, against the industry at large. So I think
Mhm.
it's so helpful for you sharing your story. So kind of on that note, um, from your perspective, I know just a few weeks in, but what are the things that you feel like from a marketing perspective of Neura, of our business model, that you think is different here, that you would encourage people to highlight and share to people that are in the industry?
Yeah, for sure. Everything. I have a list of like 15 different topics that I feel like make the difference. And what I'm doing in my content is just rotating those things and doing them. Maybe I'll do a reel, then I'll do a carousel, then I'll do a static post, then I'll do a story, then I'll do a live, all of the same things over and over and over again. So I encourage you to take some notes of all of this and do the same. And then in your, in-person conversations as well. But, I feel like there's a lot of strategy behind things, a lot of corporate, they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing it sticks. There's no like sales strategy. There's no like even like little things, guys. It's like doing an add-on product instead of doing this deep discount, because deep discounts then affect your CV, which affects your team's paychecks, right? And so there's so many things like that. Like these are the things I talk about on social media, because when you're looking at business people to lock arms with you, you want to get those brains going. But I think there are some smaller things that are actually big things, and it's like the scan. Talk about the scan, not just in a fact of like, we have this cool tool, take the scan and see what your scan results are. Talk about it in a way that's like, I have this scan so that the busy mom that just has 10 minutes between this and that can send someone that link and they can take it. And then now there's those recommendations. Now she has their lead. Now she can follow up with them whenever she has the time to sit down when the kids are in bed, and talk about it in that way versus it just being something that's out there. Even things like from the difference, the placement suite, guys, like that is huge. I feel like so. Right when I resigned, I had 197 active frontline, but I've had about 2,500 of all time. And so you know how the industry goes, or the inactive was really quickly on that side. But that is almost impossible to mentor all those people by yourself and do everybody justice. And I always felt like I was playing like whack-a-mole at all times, and I don't like being less than 100 at anything. And so the fact that you're able to use the placement suite here and to help build and to create what I call layered leadership, you can talk about that on social media. You can talk about those things that drive the back end of the business. The 3 year free, talk about that. Like, people, that's how I started. I started and shared and got a $34 check, and I was like, let me see what could happen. And so talk about those. The leadership retention. That's a huge one right now, guys. Like leaders are not staying places. And so that was one of the questions I asked Amber early on, was what is the leader retention? Because that speaks volumes for the company. And then I think the timing too, the timing of everything, sharing that as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. So how's your first month been for you and your team?
It's been a wild one. It's been incredible though. I think something that's really cool is that yes, you see like where I had all these enrollments last month, but I would say a fourth of them have never done this industry, have never worked with me before, and they're reaching out to me saying, "This looks like something I could do." And I'm
Mm,
hearing that from everyone. And so, I feel like when, someone comes from another company, it's like everyone assumes that it's just like they just brought people over. We're kind of starting with a whole new group too. I have three neighbors who have never talked to me about business in years that had joined this past week. And, that's been really cool. The wins are happening very quickly and very organically as well, which is really cool. And then something, people haven't really heard of this. So every time we do a call, we ask, like, put in the comments if you've heard of this, and they haven't. And so that's a really cool thing too. And I could talk forever. There's so many things. It's like, you know, you guys, if you've been here, if you've never experienced anything else, you don't know what it's like at other companies. And I could get all emotional and everything about the path that it took me here. But being able to experience, just a different culture, a different corporate, a different leader, all the leaders that were with the field, the lack of that competitiveness. I went to two local events that weren't mine last month. It was other teams, and now I think we're like, did we just become best friends? And so being able to experience that is really cool. And then also, being able to have a product that I feel confident going into professional places with, that's been a lot of our first start this month too. So I could talk about this forever. I mean,
Wow.
whenever I first saw 5 to 7 minutes, I was like, does that mean 50 to 70?
Well, we are so happy to have you here and welcome to the team. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know we'll be hearing more from you. So thank you so
Yes,
much,
for
Adrian.
sure.
All right. So I hope you guys, we always send these replays out. So that would be a great one to even, you can take notes. You can ask ChatGPT